Kids are impressionable. That's why here at this station, we watch the programs and commercials your child watches carefully. He may see bad guys, but not in the role of heroes. And he'll learn that crime doesn't pay. Because your child's welfare is our concern, too. That's part of our code. The code of the National Association of Broadcasters for television and the greater public interest.
This flat tire needs a man, but when there's no man around, when there's no man around, Goodyear should be. Why? Watch this.
I forgot that was gonna cut right away, because I don't have it. Because I didn't put it up in it didn't put it up in studio mode. All right, let's do it this way then. That's fine. We're going old school. We're going old school. Yeah, let's do it old school. Here we go, guys. Let's do something fun. All right, that didn't show the
Hey, bro, you have to know. You have to maintain, dude. You have to act like a fucking adult, bro. Fucking adult, bro.
Fuck what you talking about.
In terms
Try
of
one
reality.
of the commands.
Stupid ass house, nigga.
And not the fucking myopic, fucking little, fucking
juvenile
worldviews.
Flag waving phony Christians.
Fuck, whoever fucking talks next while I'm talking is out.
I have no idea.
Okay? I'm gonna make a fucking point here, and if I get interrupted, you're gone.
What's going on with you? What are you talking about?
By the way, Flying Disciple Man.
If
If you can't handle fucking people using strong language, fucking
Like I said, I come in the name of Jesus by the power of the Holy Spirit. I ain't playing with your ass. Don't call up and play with me.
go like play with the children, okay?
You the devil. You the devil.
Fucking
Ron Hubbard is the true God. I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
if you can't handle the the heat, then don't come.
So you know I ain't worried.
Yeah, don't come.
There's no hell. Cut that bitch off. Turn that poop
Into one. Turn that poop into one. Turn that poop into one. Turn that poop into one.
You
Turn
fucking
that.
income fucking poop.
Oh, I love that one. Let's do one more. Let's bring back Taylor.
It's interesting how atheists act like they know more science than actual scientists. So tell them to come debate me.
Taylor Swift.
Debate me, bruh.
Taylor Swift.
I think believing in God is step one. If you don't even believe in a God, then why would we start debating like which God is the right one? I think believing in God is step one.
Yeah, I don't really think
There
you
you
can
go.
get
There's
to
the store.
the Christian God through science idea of God you believe in. Do you want to talk about that on this?
But I don't have, I haven't listened to that very much.
Okay.
I read the Bible.
Jerome wants to know, can we
so
ask your
good.
guest where she's currently sitting?
Nope.
I'm sitting in a lab.
Nope.
I work here every day.
Not where you can drink. Nope.
Not impressed.
Taylor Swift.
Oh, Nano. Where's Nano? We miss Nano.
From the former president, from Rudy Giuliani, people around the former president, to get them to change the
Welcome
election
back to the
result,
David Blackman
in the state
Show.
of Georgia, which they then
I am your host,
to do,
David Blackman.
But the pressure.
Yeah, I did it just to trigger you. It's really a broadcasting thing. You never know. No Name could be hosting, right? If No Name was hosting, he'd have to be like, "Hi, welcome to the David Blackman host." Oh wait, I fucked that up. Take two. He'd have to be like, "All right, let's do the whole thing. We're sideways. All right, and in. Hi, welcome to the David Blackman Show. I'm your host, No Name." Right? And then you would know that you're watching the David Blackman Show, but that the person that's sitting in front of you hosting it isn't actually David Blackman. It's No Name. But I love it because it's important, but it makes the broadcaster sound fucking stupid as shit. So I'm going to do it again because I love to do it because it's funny as shit the way it sounds. Hi, welcome to the David Blackman Show. I'm your host, David Blackman. Nigga, like, who the fuck else would be hosting the goddamn... Oh my goodness, it's so fun. It might actually be somebody else, guys. Yes, that's the answer to the question. The answer to the question is you never know when it might actually be somebody else. For instance, this week on Hot Program, Tux might be hosting instead of my one black friend because my one black friend is somewhere else. So you can't assume it's always going to be me and him.
Was relentless. We're going to hear now, I think Chairman Benny Thompson is going to call the hearing back to order. Let's listen.
I wouldn't mess up my line, no name. Go fuck yourself.
The committee will be in order. President Trump's pressure campaign against state officials existed in all the key battleground states that he lost. But the former president had a particular obsession with Georgia. Here is the president on the afternoon of January 6th, after his own attorney general warned him that the claims you are about to hear are patently false.
They should find those votes. They should absolutely find that. Just over 11,000 votes.
Yeah, no name. That's a good example, actually.
They defrauded us out of a win in Georgia, and we're not going to forget it.
So the state of Georgia is where we will turn our attention to next. I want to emphasize that our investigation into these issues is still ongoing. As I stated in our last hearing, if you have relevant information or documentary evidence to share with the Select Committee, we welcome your cooperation. But we will share some of our findings with you today. Secretary Raffensperger, thank you for being here today. You've been a public servant in Georgia since 2015, serving first as a member of the Georgia...
The funny shit is I could actually use that because that would be true about me. Like, my name is not David and I'm not Blackman. But yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be funny. No name. If you ever guest host the David Blackman Show, you should use that line.
Georgia House of Representatives, and then, since January 2019, as Georgia's Secretary of State. As a self-described conservative Republican, is it fair to say that you wanted President Trump to win the 2020 election?
Yes, it is.
Mr. Secretary, many witnesses have told the Select Committee that Election Day, November 3rd, 2020, was a largely uneventful day in their
Revenge of the dial-up.
In spite of the challenges of conducting an election during a pandemic, you wrote in the Washington Post that the election was, quote, successful. Tell us, what was your impression of how Election Day had proceeded in Georgia?
On Election Day in November, our election went remarkably smooth. In fact, we meet at the GEMA headquarters. That's the Georgia Energy Emergency Management Association meeting location, but we were following wait times in line. In the afternoon, our average wait time was 3 minutes statewide that we were recording for various precincts, and it actually got down to 2 minutes. And at the end of the day, we felt that we had a successful election from the standpoint of the administration and the operation of the election.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Raffensperger, did Joe Biden win the 2020 presidential election in Georgia, and by what margin?
President Biden carried the state of Georgia by approximately 12,000 votes.
And Mr. Secretary, as I understand it, your office took several steps to ensure the accuracy of the vote count in Georgia, reviewing the vote count in at least 3 different ways. These steps included a machine recount, a forensic audit, and a full hand recount of every one of the 5 million ballots cast. Did these efforts, including a recount of literally every ballot cast in the state of Georgia, confirm the result?
Yes, they did. We counted the ballots where the first tabulation would be scanned. Then when we did our 100% hand audit of the all 5 million ballots in the state of Georgia, all cast in place, all absentee ballots, they were all hand recounted, and they came remarkably close to the first count. And then, upon the election being certified, President Trump, because he was within 0.5%, could ask for a recount, and then we recounted them again through the scanners, and we got remarkably the same count. 3 counts, all remarkably close, which showed that President Trump did come up short.
Nevertheless, as you will see, the president and his allies began making numerous false allegations of voter fraud, false allegations that you and Mr. Sterling, among others, had to address. Mr. Sterling, thank you also for being here today. Following the 2020 election, in addition to your normal duties, I understand that you became a spokesperson to try to combat disinformation about the election and the danger it was creating for elections officials, among others. In a December 1 press conference, you addressed some of your remarks directly to President Trump. Let's take a look at what you said that day.
Mr. President, it looks like you likely lost the state of Georgia. We're investigating. There's always a possibility. I get it. And you have the rights to go through the courts. What you don't have the ability to do, and you need to step up and say this, is stop inspiring people to commit potential acts of violence. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get shot. Someone's going to get killed. And it's not right. It's not right.
Mr. Sterling, what prompted you to make these remarks?
Mr. Schiff, we had a previously scheduled press conference that day, as we were in the habit of doing, trying to be as transparent as we could about the election and the counts going on. A little after lunch that day, lunchtime, I received a call from the project manager from Dominion Voting Systems, who was oddly, audibly shaken. She's not the kind of person I would assume would be that way. She has a master's from MIT, a graduate of the Naval Academy, and was very much on the ball and pretty unflappable. And she informed me about a young contractor they had who had been receiving threats from a video had been posted by some QAnon supporters. And at that point, we had been steeping in this kind of stuff. So it was around us all the time. So I didn't take note of it more than adding to the pile of other stuff we were having to deal with. And I did pull up Twitter, and I scrolled through it, and I saw the young man's name. It was a particular tweet that, for lack of a better word, was a straw that broke the camel's back. Had the young man's name. It was a very unique name. I believe it was a first-generation American. And it said, had his name, "You committed treason. May God have mercy on your soul," with a slowly twisting gif of a noose. And for lack of a better word, I lost it. I just got irate. My boss was with me at the time, the Deputy Secretary, Jordan Fuchs, and she could tell that I was angry. I tend to turn red from here up when that happens, and that happened at that time. And she called Secretary Raffensperger to say, "We're seeing these kind of threats, and Gabe thinks we need to say something about it." And the Secretary said yes, and that's what prompted me to do what I did. I lost my temper, but it seemed necessary at the time because it was just getting worse. And I could not tell you why that particular one was the one that put me over the edge, but it did.
I really appreciated what he did at the time, and I appreciate it probably even more now. I was literally sitting here thinking about, guys, I hate to sound so corny, but we have to fight for a world in which the truth fucking matters. Right? That's what we're all really out here for. I'm just tired of people sitting on some bullshit and just doing whatever it takes to hang on at any means when we can all see that they're wrong. And to me, that is the common decency of humanity. You show up, you play the game, everybody watches, the referees make sure we play by the rules. When the final buzzer goes off, we look up at the scoreboard, we see who won, we see who lost, we shake hands, we go home, we try again next time. It's really not that hard.
Now, after you made this plea to the president, did Donald Trump urge his supporters to avoid the use of violence?
Not to my knowledge.
Now, as we know, the president was aware of your speech because he tweeted about it later that day. Let's take a look at what the president said. In the tweet, Donald Trump claims that there was, quote, massive voter fraud in Georgia. Mr. Sterling, that was just plain false, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Nevertheless, the very next day, on December 2nd, President Trump released a lengthy video again making false claims of election fraud in Georgia. Let's take a look at what he said this time.
They found thousands and thousands of votes that were out of whack, all against me.
In fact, the day after Donald Trump released that video, so now we're talking just 2 days after
Trump
the emotional
persecution
warning
complex
that you gave that someone's going to get killed, representatives of President Trump appeared in Georgia, including Rudy Giuliani, and launched a new conspiracy theory that would take on a life of its own and threaten the lives of several innocent election workers. This story, false.
If I could pepper spray all QAnoners, would I press it? Then no, definitely not. It's crazy. The more I get, and I know it sounds so like a self-fulfilling prophecy because of what I do. If I could do anything to all QAnoners, it'd be stick them in a biology classroom. Just say, y'all all have to sit through this biology class. You have to sit through my biology class. You don't have to believe shit. You don't have to turn in shit. You just sit there. If you fall asleep, go ahead. You fall asleep. You fall asleep in my biology class, that's on me. But I just think that'd do a lot better. Now, do I want to pepper spray him just for shits and gigs? Them some crazy ass motherfuckers. I mean. Here's what would be funny, y'all. Right? What would be funny about pepper spraying them is a lot of us are kind of like scientific, right? So we would get pepper sprayed, right? And we would be like, oh shit, this fucking sucks. Holy shit, they pepper sprayed us. And then we might get to like, I don't know, the water probably, but mostly like the milk, right? Because we know it's capsaicin. So we kind of go to the, trying to deal with the capsaicin, right? The funny thing about pepper spraying all the QAnoners would be all the conspiracy theories they have about how to deal with the pepper spray, right? Hey guys, I heard if you put some vinegar on it. like all the shit that they would be putting on their eyes, they watch them going into their refrigerator going for the Italian dressing, just to get rid of the pepper spray. If I could videotape that part, I'm probably down. Just to see all the new conspiracies and the new the new alternative medicines that come out of this experiment. Caterpillar knows what time it is. Oh, dish soap is the right move. That's good to know, Lena. That's a good thing to know. Dish soap. I'm gonna keep that in mind. All right, but yeah, that's my in right there.
Alleges that sometime during election night, election workers at the State Farm Arena in Atlanta, Georgia, kicked out poll observers. After the observers left, the story goes, these workers pulled so-called suitcases of ballots from under a table and ran those ballots through counting machines multiple times, completely without evidence.
Now that I don't agree with. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but like I really do think it needs to be legal for especially anybody who identifies as not male to carry defensive stuff with them, right? And like it's important for people like me too, because I've been hospitalized because of my bipolar, right? So I can't own a firearm, right? So I actually think in the world where I literally have to fear for my safety, especially from all these motherfuckers with guns, like I need things like pepper spray and knives and whatever the fuck else to be available to me to give me some chance to defend myself, especially being that I'm not trained. But yeah, I like the idea of, I don't necessarily have a partner or kids or anything like that, but I certainly like the idea of my mother or my daughter being able to carry pepper spray on them. Again, like Jen and True says, I don't really enjoy the idea of them having to use it. But I certainly rather it be available to them. I could be convinced I'm wrong about that. Again, I could be convinced of some other stuff, I'm sure. But in my gut reaction, that kind of bugs. I'm not good with that.
President Trump and his allies claimed that these suitcases contained as many as 18,000 ballots, all for Joe Biden. None of this was true. But Rudy Giuliani appeared before the Georgia State Senate and played a surveillance video from State Farm Arena, falsely claiming that it showed this conspiracy taking place. Here's a sample of what Mr. Giuliani had to say during that hearing.
And when you look at what you saw on the video, which to me was a smoking gun, powerful smoking gun, well, I don't have to be a genius to figure out what happened. And I don't have to be a genius to figure out that those votes are not legitimate votes. You don't put legitimate votes under a table. No. Wait until you throw.
Sorry, in case any of y'all were not paying attention at home, yes, you do. You do. As a matter of fact, all the people who work there, who again do the very mundane work of running an election, testify to the fact that that's exactly what you do. You put them in a box, you put them away. When you end for the day, you make sure the box is in a secure place. When the box is there, you pull it back out. Guys, they're just votes. They're locked in the box. They're on the facility. Like, that's exactly what you do. Just wanted to clear that up.
Opposition out, and in the middle of the night, count them.
Yep, there you go.
You have to be fools to think that.
Yeah, or you want to get the count done.
President Trump's campaign amplified Giuliani's false testimony in a tweet pushing out the video footage. Giuliani likewise pushed out his testimony on social media. As you can see in this tweet, Mr. Giuliani wrote that it was, quote, now beyond doubt, unquote, that Fulton County Democrats had stolen the election. Later in this hearing, we'll hear directly from one of the election workers in this video about the effect these lies had on her and on her family. Mr. Sterling, did the investigators in your office review the entire surveillance tape from the State Farm Arena on election night?
They actually reviewed approximately 48 hours going over the time period where action was taking place at the counting center at State Farm Arena.
And what did the tape actually show?
Depending on which time you want to start, because as was mentioned, this conspiracy theory took on a life of its own, where they conflated a water main break that wasn't a water main break and throwing observers out and a series of other things. What it actually showed was Fulton County election workers engaging in normal ballot processing. One of the things that was very frustrating was the so-called suitcases of ballots from under the table. If you watch the entirety of the video, you saw that these were election workers who were under the impression they were going to get to go home around 10:30. People are putting on their coats. They're putting ballots that are prepared to be scanned into ballot carriers that are then sealed with tamper-proof seals so that they're not messed with. It's an interesting thing because you watch there's 4 screens of the video, and as you're watching it, you can see the election monitors in the corner with the press as they're taking these ballot carriers and putting them under the table. You see it there. One of the other hidden ones, if you looked at the actual tape, was on the outside of the table, just from the camera angle. You couldn't see it originally. And this goes under the no good deed goes unpunished. We were told, we were at GEMA, as the secretary pointed out, and we were told that it looked like they were shutting down the Fulton County counting. The secretary expressed some displeasure at that because we wanted to everybody keep counting so we could get to the results and know what was happening. So our elections director called their elections director, who was at another location because this was election day. There was 2 different places where ballot things were being done by the Fulton County office. So he called the elections director of Fulton, then called Ralph Jones, who was at the State Farm Arena, and said, "What the heck are you doing? Go ahead and stay." And as you watch the video itself, you see him take the phone call as people are putting things away and getting ready to leave. And you can tell for about 15, 20 seconds, he does not want to tell these people they have to stay. He walks over, he thinks about it for a second, you see him come back to the corner of a desk and kind of slumps his shoulders and says, "Okay, y'all, we got to keep on counting." And then you see him take their coats off, get the ballots out. And then a secondary thing that you'll see on there is you'll have people who are counting ballots who a batch will go through, they will take them off and run that through again.
Again, now, let's tie a couple of things together. I wanna reach into something that all of you can relate to, right? That you don't have to work in a fucking campaign office to understand. Was this not a hotly contested election? Was this not important? How long did it take to get these damn election results in, y'all? What was it, like 3-4 days or some shit to get these election results in, right? And what the fuck was everybody doing during this shit? Watching the TV like 24/7. Is it in yet? Is it in yet? What the fuck is taking them so long to count these goddamn votes? I know, look, I understand it's a lot of people voting, but really? Who's the president? We don't know who the president's gonna be. Dog, it's been like 3 days. I've been watching John King. John King really has some medical shit going on. I'm worried about John King. John King should not be on his feet this long. He been in front of that boy for like 3-4 days in a row. And I ain't slept none of them days, and I still don't know who the president is. So, like, right? So how do these two things work together? Well, if we want to know the results of the election faster, that means the people who are counting the ballots, when there's a lot of ballots to count, they have to put in a lot of extra hours to get those ballots counted in the time people want. And so that means shit like this happens. There's an ordinance or whatever, or the normal fucking procedure, and they're getting ready to wrap up for the day, and there's all the media pressure and the national pressure and the controversy and all of the shits and all of that, and the call comes in, yeah, bro, but people is really trying to get in, you know what I'm saying, bro, we need to get these numbers in there, you're going to have to tell them to stay, yeah, they going to, no, for real. Yeah, but for real, yeah, they're going to have to stay. Yeah, we got to get these fucking votes counted. This ain't a goddamn game. And he's like, you know? So this is some real shit, y'all.
Happens there is a standard operating.
You know you wanted them results.
There's a misscan. If there's a
this is what it takes.
Doesn't read right. These are high-speed, high-capacity scanners. So 3 or 4 will go through after a misscan. You have to delete that batch and put it back through again. And by going through the hand tally, as the secretary pointed out, we showed
pay them extra money.
Multiple ballot scans.
Bless be he. Does your dumbass want to do extra work for free? Yes, we completely agree with you. When you want people to count extra ballots, extra late at night, you should pay them extra money, and it should come out of your extra taxes. Thank you very much. I couldn't agree more.
And without a corresponding physical ballot, your counts would have been a lot higher than the ballots themselves. And by doing the hand tally, we saw 2 specific numbers that were met. The hand tally got us to a 0.1053% off of the total votes cast and 0.0099% on the margin, which is essentially dead on accurate. Most academic studies say on a hand tally you'll have between 1 and 2%.
The money Republicans don't want to pay
where it's very clear
to those people. Then they want to sue all the machines.
To conduct that hand count.
Then they want to get rid of all the ballot boxes.
Now, I understand
then
that...
they want to get rid of mail-in voting
when you review these tapes
and absentee voting.
The analysis, it disproved this conspiracy theory. But you still had to take a lot of steps to try to make sure the public knew the truth about these allegations. And you did frequent briefings for the press. Let's take a look at one of those press briefings, Mr. Sterling, that you held on December 7th to make the point that you just did today.
Move on to what I'm going to call Disinformation Monday. Out of the gate, many of y'all saw the videotape from State Farm Arena.
Taco.
I spent hours with our post-certified investigators, Justin Gray from WSB, spent hours with us going over this video to explain to people that what you saw, the secret suitcases with magic ballots, were actually ballots that had been packed into those absentee ballot carriers by the workers in plain view of the monitors and the press. And what's really frustrating is the president's attorneys had this same videotape. They saw the exact same things the rest of us could see, and they chose to mislead state senators and the public about what was on that video. I'm quite sure that they will not characterize the video if they try to enter into evidence, because that is the kind of thing that could lead to sanctions, because it's obviously untrue. They knew it was untrue, and they continue to do things like this.
Mr. Sterling,
guys, I'm going to fill my water real quick. I just want to say something. Yes, it's called overtime. These are real people. And understand something. They don't work for any party. We're talking about election workers. Yes, there are officials who also have to work all these extra hours from the parties, from the individual candidates, from the counties and the municipalities and the cities. But we're trying to put a little extra highlight here today on the election workers, particularly the poll workers. Okay? They're not party affiliates. Yes, they vote and they have a party affiliation, but they are neutral operatives whose job it is to count these motherfucking ballots and make sure everybody's vote goes through smoothly. Almost everyone watching this has a poll worker and ballot non-political person in their family who does this type of thing. And if you do not know who that person in your family is, it's probably because you are that person in your family.
Despite the efforts by your office to combat this misinformation by speaking out publicly and through local media, you were unable to match the reach of President Trump's platform and social media megaphone spreading these false conspiracy theories. What was it like to compete with a president who had the biggest bully pulpit in the world to push out these false claims?
For lack of a better word, it was frustrating. But oftentimes I felt our information was getting out, but that there was a reticence of people who needed to believe it because the President of the United States, whom many looked up to and respected, was telling them it wasn't true, despite the facts. And I have characterized at one point, it was kind of like a shovel trying to empty the ocean. And yes, it was frustrating. I even have, family members who I had to argue with about some of these things, and I would show them things, and the problem you have is you're getting to people's hearts. I remember there's one specific, an attorney that we know that we showed and walked him through, this wasn't true. Okay, I get that. This wasn't true. Okay, I get that. This wasn't, 5 or 6 things. But at the end, he goes, I just know in my heart they cheated. That's just, and so once you get past the heart, the facts don't matter as much. And our job, from our point of view, is to get the facts out, do our job, tell the truth, follow the Constitution, follow the law, and defend the institutions and the institutions held.
Let's take a look at what you were competing with. This is the former president speaking in Georgia on December 5th.
Evidence of fraud is overwhelming, and again, I'm going to ask you to look up at that very, very powerful and very expensive screen.
Hidden cases of possible ballots are rolled out from under a table. 4 people under a cloud of suspicion.
So, if you just take the crime of what those Democrat workers were doing, and by the way, there was no water main break. They said there was no water main break. That's 10 times more than I need to win this state. 10 times more. It's 10 times, maybe more than that, but it's 10 times more because we lost by a very close number.
In this committee's hearing last Monday, we heard from senior federal law enforcement officials, from the senior-most federal law enforcement official in Atlanta at the time, U.S. Attorney for the Northern District, B.J. Pack, as well as former Attorney General Bill Barr. They both testified that the allegations were thoroughly investigated and found to have no merit. Here is U.S. Attorney Pack.
Particular to Attorney General Barr, I told him that we looked into it. We've done several things, including interviewing the witnesses. I listened to the tapes and reviewed the videotape myself, and that there was nothing there. Giuliani was wrong in representing that this was a suitcase full of ballots.
And here's what Attorney General Bill Barr had to say about the same allegations.
Took a hard look at this ourselves, and based on our review of it, including the interviews of the key witnesses, the Fulton County allegations had no merit.
We also have testimony from senior Department of Justice officials establishing that they specifically told President Trump that these allegations had been thoroughly investigated and were completely without merit. Here is Acting Deputy Attorney General Richard Donahue describing a phone conversation in which he specifically told President Trump that these allegations were false.
The president kept fixating on this suitcase that supposedly had fraudulent ballots, and that the suitcase was rolled out from under the table. And I said, no, sir, there is no suitcase. You can watch that video over and over. There is no suitcase. There is a wheeled bin where they
carry the ballots. No matter how many times senior Department of Justice officials, including his own Attorney General, told the president that these allegations were not true, President Trump kept promoting these lies and putting pressure on state officials to accept them. On January 2nd, the president had a lengthy telephone conversation with Secretary Raffensperger. Prior to the president's call, though, I want to share a bit of important context. First, the White House, including the former president's chief of staff, Mark Meadows, repeatedly called or texted the secretary's office some 18 times in order to set up this call. They were quite persistent. Second, Chief of Staff Mark Meadows took the extraordinary step of showing up at a signature audit site in Georgia, where he met with Secretary Raffensperger's chief investigator, Francis Watson, who was supervising that audit process. Behind me is a photograph from that visit. Third, the day after Meadows' Georgia visit, he set up a call between President Trump and Francis Watson. On the call between President Trump and Georgia investigator Francis Watson, the former president continued to push the false claim that he'd won the state of Georgia. Let's listen to that part of the conversation.
You know, you have the most important job in the country right now, because if we win Georgia, first of all, if we win, you're going to have 2 wins. They're not going to win right now. You know, they're down because the people of Georgia are so angry at what happened to me. They know I won by hundreds of thousands of votes. It wasn't close.
And in this next clip, he told this state law enforcement official that she'd be praised if she found the right answer.
Hopefully, you know, I will. When the right answer comes out, you'll be praised. I mean, I don't know why. You know, they've made it so hard. They will be praised. People will say, "Great," because that's what it's about. That ability to check and to make it right. Because everyone knows it's wrong. There's just no way.
Mr. Raffensperger, I know you weren't on this call, but that you have listened to it. President Trump.
Guys, that was some serious mafia boss type of shit right there. Holy fuck. It's so easy to forget how fucking scary this guy is. Holy shit.
Trump didn't win by hundreds of thousands of votes in Georgia, did he?
No, he did not. I've been traveling through the state of Georgia for a year now, and simply put, in a nutshell, what happened in fall of 2020 is that 28,000 Georgians skipped the presidential race, and yet they voted down ballot in other races. And the Republican congressman ended up getting 33,000 more votes than President Trump. And that's why President Trump came up short.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The president on this call doesn't stop here. Let's listen to another part of the conversation between President Trump and
Georgia
Ms. Watson.
just dissed Trump. Straight up.
Anyway, but whatever you can do, Francis, it would be, it's a great thing. It's an important thing for the country. So important. You have no idea it's so important. Well, and I very much appreciate it.
Whatever you can do, Francis. This is the President of the United States calling an investigator looking into the election in which he is a candidate and asking her to do whatever you can do. Mr. Secretary, he placed this call to your chief investigator on September 23rd, 2020. The subcommittee has received text messages indicating that Mark Meadows wanted to send some of the investigators in her office, in the words of one White House aide, a shitload of POTUS stuff, including coins, actual autographed MAGA hats, etc. White House staff intervened to make sure that didn't happen. It was clear at the time of this call that the former president had his sights set on January 6th. Listen to this portion when he told Francis Watson about a very important date.
Do you think they'll be working after Christmas to keep it going fast? Because, you know, we have that date of the 6th, which is a very important date.
That important date, of course, was the joint session of Congress, where Georgia's electoral votes would be counted for Joe Biden. A little over a week after this call to Francis Watson, the President was finally able to speak with you, Secretary Raffensperger. Bear in mind, as we discuss this call today, that by this point in time, early January, the election in Georgia had already been certified. But perhaps more important, the President of the United States had already been told repeatedly by his own top Justice Department officials that the claims he was about to make to you about massive fraud in Georgia were completely false. Mr. Secretary, the call between you and the President lasted 67 minutes, over an hour. We obviously can't listen to the entire recording here today, although it is available on the Select Committee's website. But we'll listen to selected excerpts of it now so that we can get your insights. Let's begin with the President raising the thoroughly debunked allegations of suitcases of ballots.
In an official voter box, they were in what looked to be suitcases or trunks, suitcases, but they weren't in voter boxes. The minimum number it could be, because we watched it and they watched it certified in slow motion, instant replay, if you can believe it, but had slow motion and it was magnified many times over. And the minimum it was 18,000 ballots, all for Biden.
These are the allegations that the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and your office had all said were false. Is that right?
Correct. And even more importantly, when B.J. Pack resigned as U.S. Attorney of the Northern District, President Trump appointed as acting U.S. Attorney of the Northern District Bobby Christine. And Bobby Christine looked at that, and he was quoted in the AJC that he found nothing. And he dismissed that case early also.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The President references suitcases or trunks. Mr. Sterling, were the objects seen in these videos suitcases or trunks, or were they just the ordinary containers that are used by election workers?
They're standard ballot carriers that allow for seals to be put on them so they're tamper-proof.
And finally, the President claims that there was a minimum of 18,000 ballots somehow smuggled in, all for Biden. I take it, gentlemen, that was also categorically false?
There's no physical way he can know who those ballots were for, but secondarily, Fulton County for years has been an issue in our state when it comes to elections. So they had a very difficult time during the primary, in large part because of COVID. So we had put them under a consent decree the Secretary got negotiated, where we had a monitor on site. And his name is Carter Jones. And he took a notation. He had gone from State Farm to the English Street warehouse to look at election day activities. But before he left the State Farm Arena, he noted how many ballots had been counted on each one of the machines. And when he came back after we found out they were working again, he took note again when they closed. And I believe the final number was something around 8,900 total ballots were scanned from the time he left to the time about 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning. So way below 18,000.
Let's play the next clip.
I heard it was close. I said, there's no way. But they dropped a lot of votes in there late at night. You know that, Brett.
Mr. Secretary, did somebody drop a lot of votes there late at night?
No. I believe that the President was referring to some of the counties when they would upload, but the ballots had all been accepted and had to be accepted by state law by 7 p.m. So there were no additional ballots accepted after 7 p.m.
Let's play the next clip in which the President makes claims about so-called dead voters.
The other thing, dead people. So dead people voted. And I think the number is in close to 5,000 people. And they went to obituaries. They went to all sorts of methods to come up with an accurate number. And a minimum is close to about 5,000 voters.
Mr. Secretary, did your office investigate whether those allegations were accurate? Did 5,000 dead people in Georgia vote?
No, it's not accurate. And actually, in their lawsuits, they alleged 10,315 dead people. We found 2 dead people when I wrote my letter to Congress that stated January 6th. And subsequent to that, we found 2 more. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 people, not 4,000, but just a total of 4, not 10,000, not 5,000.
Let's play the next clip.
And there's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated, because the 2,236 and absentee ballots, I mean, they're all exact numbers that were done by accounting firms, law firms, etc. And even if you cut them in half, cut them in half, and cut them in half again, it's more votes than we need.
Mr. Secretary, is there any way that you could have lawfully changed the result in the state of Georgia and somehow explained it away as a recalculation?
No, the numbers are the numbers. The numbers don't lie. We had many allegations, and we investigated every single one of them. In fact, I challenged my team, did we miss anything? They said that there was over 66,000 underage voters. We found that there was actually zero. You can register to vote in Georgia. When you're 17 and a half, you have to be 18 by Election Day. We checked that out, every single voter. They said that there was 2,423 non-registered voters. There was zero. They said that there was 2,056 felons. We identified less than 74 or less that were actually still in felony sentence. Every single allegation we checked. We ran down the rabbit trail to make sure that our numbers were accurate.
So there's no way you could have recalculated it except by fudging the numbers?
The numbers were the numbers, and we could not recalculate because we had made sure that we had checked every single allegation. And we had many investigations. We had nearly 300 from the 2020 election.
Mr. Secretary, you tried to push back when the president made these unsupported claims, whether they were about suitcases of ballots or that Biden votes were counted 3 times. Let's play the next clip.
President, they did not put that. We did an audit of that, and we proved conclusively that they were not scanned 3 times. Yeah, Mr. President, we'll send you the link from WSB that doesn't. I
don't care about a link. I don't need it. I have a much better link.
You told the president you would send him a link from WSB, which I understand is a local television station that had a unedited video from the State Farm Arena. But the president wasn't interested in that. He said he had a much better link. Mr. Secretary, at the time that you were on the call with the president, as we have shown, both the FBI and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation have proven these claims to be nonsense. And you told him about these investigations on the phone. Let's listen to what President Trump had to say about the state and federal law enforcement officers who investigated these false claims.
There's no way they could, then they're incompetent. They're either dishonest or incompetent, okay? There's only 2 answers, dishonesty or incompetence. There's just no way. Look, there's no way.
But the president didn't stop at insinuating that law enforcement officers were either dishonest or incompetent. He went on to suggest that you could be subject to criminal liability for your role in the matter. Before I play that portion of the conversation, I'd like to show you something that the president retweeted a couple weeks before your call with him. Here's the president retweeting a post from one of his allies, a lawyer who was later sanctioned by a judge in Michigan for making false claims of election fraud. Let's take a look at that tweet. The tweet read, quote, "President Trump, @RealDonaldTrump, is a genuinely good man. He does not really like to fire people. I bet he dislikes putting people in jail, especially, quote unquote, Republicans. He gave @BrianKemp, Georgia, and @Georgia Secretary of State every chance to get it right. They refused. They will soon be going to jail." So on your call,
y'all remember that last time Joe Biden tweeted that shit that had everybody outraged? Yeah, I didn't think so. What about Obama? Nah, not so much. Now, look, everything Donald Trump did is just so beneath the office, y'all. Just straight up beneath the office. What a dirtbag.
All this was not the first time the president was suggesting you might be criminally liable. With that, let's listen to this portion of the call.
I think you're going to find that they are shredding ballots because they have to get rid of the ballots because the ballots are unsigned. The ballots are corrupt. And they're brand new and they don't have seals. And there's a whole thing with the ballots, but the ballots are corrupt. And you're going to find that they are, which is totally illegal. It's more illegal for you than it is for them.
So desperate.
Because you know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense.
Is it, Donnie?
And you can't let that happen. That's a big risk to you and to Ryan, your lawyer. That's a big risk.
Unbelievable.
Secretary Raffensperger, after making a false claim about shredding of ballots, the president suggested that you may be committing a crime by not going along with his claims of election fraud. And after suggesting that you might have criminal exposure, President Trump makes his most explicit ask of the call. Let's play a part of that conversation.
So, look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
He should go to jail for that right there.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes.
That's it. That's it, right? Ding, ding, ding. That right there, Donald J. Trump, was the part where you seriously fucked up.
Which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
Mr. Secretary, was the president here asking you for exactly what he wanted? One more vote than his opponent.
What I knew is that we didn't have any votes to find. We had continued to look. We investigated, like I just shared the numbers with you. There were no votes to find. That was an accurate count that had been certified. And as our general counsel said, there was no shredding of ballots.
Mr. Secretary, after making this request, the president then goes back to the danger of having you deny these allegations of fraud. Let's listen to that part of the clip.
And I watched you this morning, and you said, well, there was no criminality, but I mean, all of this stuff is very dangerous stuff. When you talk about no criminality, I think it's very dangerous for you to say that.
Secretary Raffensperger, you wrote about this in your book, and you said, quote, I felt then and still believe today that this was a threat. Others obviously thought so too, because some of Trump's more radical followers have responded as if it was their duty to carry out this threat. Please tell us what you, your wife, even your daughter-in-law experienced regarding threats from Trump's more radical followers.
Well, after the election, my email, my cell phone was doxxed, and so I was getting text all over the country, and then eventually my wife started getting the text, and hers typically came in as sexualized texts, which were disgusting. You have to understand that Trish and I, we met in high school, and we've been married over 40 years now, and so they started going after her, I think, just to probably put pressure on me. Why don't you just quit, walk away? And so that happened, and then some people broke into my daughter-in-law's home, and my son has passed, and she's a widow and has 2 kids. And so we're very concerned about her safety also.
And Mr. Secretary, why didn't you just quit and walk away?
Because I knew that we had followed the law and we had followed the Constitution. And I think sometimes moments require you to stand up and just take the shots when you're doing your job. And that's all we did. You know, we just followed the law and we followed the Constitution. And at the end of the day, President Trump came up short. But I had to be faithful to the Constitution. And that's what I swore an oath to do.
During the remainder of the call, the former president continued to press you to find the remaining votes that would ensure his victory in Georgia. Let's listen to a little more.
Why wouldn't you want to find the right answer, Brad, instead of keep saying that the numbers are right? So look, can you get together tomorrow? And Brad, we just want the truth. It's simple. And everyone's going to look very good if the truth comes out. It's okay. It takes a little while, but let the truth come out. And the real truth is I won by 400,000 votes, at least. So what are we going to do here, folks? I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break.
4 days after the president's call to Secretary Raffensperger was January 6th. The president whipped up the crowd in front of the ellipse, once again promoting the allegation that Secretary Raffensperger, the president's own attorney general,
that was so
told
epic.
him was false. Here he is on the ellipse.
I was like, yep, I think we got it, Donnie. We'll take it from here.
Republican poll watchers were ejected, in some cases physically,
from the room under the false pretense of a pipe burst, water main burst. Everybody leave.
Y'all, if Donald Trump tells you what he had for breakfast, he is lying to you. If Donald Trump does not show me fucking pictures of the sandwich he says he had for lunch, he's full of shit about whatever he says he had for lunch. Like, he just, I am far more surprised when he says something that happens to be true. Like, if this nigga right now just said to me, and I am wearing a red tie, I would be, Donald Trump, you piece of fucking shit. Oh, wait. He is actually wearing a red tie. Oh, shit, sorry. All right, my bad. He was actually telling the truth, yo. That's how much this motherfucker lies.
Which we now know was a total lie. Then election officials pulled boxes, Democrats, and suitcases of ballots out from under a table. You all saw it on television. Totally fraudulent. And illegally scanned them for nearly 2 hours, totally unsupervised. Tens of thousands of votes. This act coincided with a mysterious vote dump of up to 100,000 votes for Joe Biden, almost none for Trump. Oh, that sounds fair. That was at 1:34 a.m.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Sterling, I want to thank you for your service to the state of Georgia and to the country. Speaker Bowers, likewise, I want to thank you for your service to the state of Arizona. And
AR, they kept saying to me, sir, this is the greatest breakfast anyone has ever eaten at this restaurant.
To the country. You have served not only your home states, but our nation and our democracy. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Schiff. I thank the witnesses for joining us today. You're now dismissed.
These witnesses have been the featured speakers, individuals being queried by the committee members for the last 2 hours. There is another witness coming up right now. She is the former Georgia election worker. Her name is Wandrea Arche, or Shay Moss. We expect to see her any moment now. The committee has given us a schedule of who they are talking with, whom they've invited to be a witness, and we know that she is next. It looks as if she may be walking into the room now to take her place at the desk. We've been listening to Congressman Adam Schiff ask these two Georgia election officials, Brad Raffensperger, who's the Secretary of State.
Give me a sister, can't resist her. Yeah, I need a little blackness up in here, y'all. I hope she keeps it real. They done brought in a bunch of certified Trump litards who they all started with, and you're crazy as fuck, right? You're one of these right-wing fuckheads. You really were hoping Donald Trump won this election, weren't you? Can we just get a normal goddamn person up here?
And Gabriel Sterling, who is his
Come on,
chief
girl, give it to us. We need it.
Them about
we need it. I'm fucking with the hair.
Threats from former President
She
Trump
ready. She got her fancy shit on.
They didn't agree to change the election results.
She brought her mama with her.
Similar.
She's doing big things in the hood. Her mama's a fucking icon in her goddamn hood. She's a motherfucking legend in her hood. She's second generation in her fucking community, okay? She got her mama behind her for the over-the-shoulder shot. I'm with it. Black power, let's get it.
This time they will be directed to Shay Moss. Her full name is Wandrea Arche Moss.
Wandrea Arche Moss. That's right. Let's get it.
The state of Georgia.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
I now welcome our final
Say her
witness
black ass name.
this
Let's go.
afternoon. Wandrea Shay Moss. Ms. Moss worked in the Department of Registration and Elections in Fulton County, Georgia, from 2017 until 2022. In that job, Ms. Moss handled voter applications and absentee ballot requests, and also helped to process the vote count for several elections. In December 2020, Ms. Moss and her mother, Ms. Ruby Freeman,
there you go,
became the target of nasty lies spread by President Trump and his allies as they sought to overturn the election results in Georgia.
And facts. See, what I said to y'all was facts. Believe it. Wherever the fuck this lady is from, everybody know her mama been working elections since before your stupid ass was born, okay? And she brought her up, bringing her ass to the fucking poll every time. You gonna sit your little narrow ass in that chair and watch me work this election. This is how you fill out the application. And you got to have the best customer service. That's how. Why you think everybody drops the pies off at our house? Because they see us here and how we do this. And then you sit your little narrow ass there and watch me check these identifications, right? So when she started doing this shit, her first day on the job, everybody that's working at the poll was like, oh, that bitch right there, she been knowing what the fuck to do. She showed up on day one like, boop, 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 boop. Y'all about to hear from some real fucking pros. Let's go.
Ms. Moss and her mother, Ms. Freeman, are two of the unsung heroes in this country, doing the hard work of keeping our democracy functioning for every American. Ms. Moss, welcome. Thank you for your service, and I thank you for being here today. I will now swear you in. Please stand. Do you swear or affirm on the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that the witness answered in the affirmative. Ms. Moss, thank you very much for being here today. I understand that you are here along with your mother today. Would you like to introduce your mama? Hi, Mom. Ms. Moss, today we'll be asking you about some of the threats that you received following the 2020 election. Since you've been an election worker for over 10 years, I want to ask you, in your decade of service, had you ever experienced threats like these before?
Oh, look at the motherfucking nails, y'all. We have a real one in the building. Look at the nails. Oh, them nails, though. Oh, get the fuck out of here.
Don't be nervous.
And she be working the ballots with them
I
nails.
understand. So, and I want to make sure that the record reflects that you've done it for quite a while and you never received a threat. And your answer was no. Thank you. Pursuant to Section 5C8 of the House Resolution 503, the chair recognizes the gentleman from California, Mr. Schiff, for questions.
Good afternoon, Ms. Moss. Thank you for being here. I understand that you were employed by the Fulton County Registration and Elections Department for more than 10 years, and I understand that you love that job. Please tell us what made you so fond of the work that you did.
Well, I've always been told by my grandmother how important it is to vote and how people before me, a lot of people, older people in my family, did not have that right. So what I loved most about my job were the older voters. Younger people could usually do everything from their phone or go online, but the older voters like to call, they like to talk to you, they like to get my card, they like to know that every election I'm here. And like even college students, a lot of parents trust in me to make sure their child does not have to drive home. They'll get an absentee ballot, they can vote, and I really found pleasure in that. I liked being the one that, you know, if someone can't navigate my voter page, or, they want a new precinct card and they don't have a copy machine or a computer or all of that, I could put it in the mail for them. I was excited always about sending out all the absentee ballots for the elderly, disabled people. I even remember driving to an hospital to give someone her absentee application. That's what I love the most.
So you really enjoyed helping people vote and participate, and that was something, the right to vote, that your grandmother taught you was precious.
Yes.
Well, I know the events that we're here to talk about today are incredibly difficult to relive. Your proud service as an election worker took a dramatic turn on the day that Rudy Giuliani publicized a video of you and your mother counting ballots on election night. President Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and others claimed on the basis of this video that you and your mother were somehow involved in a plot to kick out observers, bring suitcases of false ballots for Biden into the arena, and then run them through the machines multiple times. None of that was true, was it?
None of it.
I'd like to show you some of the statements that Rudy Giuliani made in a second hearing before the Georgia state legislators a week.
Again, somebody want to come in here and tell me this woman is a demon rat? Just go ahead. Just go ahead. But we all know what you really want to say.
After that video clip from State Farm Arena was first circulated by Mr. Giuliani and President Trump, I want to advise viewers that these statements are completely false and also deeply disturbing.
Tape earlier in the day of Ruby Freeman and Shay Freeman Moss and one other gentleman quite obviously surreptitiously passing around USB ports as if they're vials of heroin or cocaine. I mean, it's obvious to anyone who's a criminal investigator or prosecutor, they are engaged in surreptitious illegal activity again that day. And that's a week ago, and they're still walking around Georgia lying. They should have been questioned already. Their places of work, their homes should have been searched for evidence of ballots, for evidence of USB ports, for evidence of voter fraud.
He said their homes should be searched for evidence of USB ports. I'm sorry, I know he fucked this woman's life up. But he's so stupid, y'all. Their homes should be searched for paper, for ballots, for evidence of USB ports. Like, just way wrong on every end of the spectrum. Ain't nobody got no